The young and the restless spoilers in a quiet corner of a bustling small-town cafe, the morning light filtered through the large windows, casting gentle shadows on the worn wooden floor. The aroma of freshly ground coffee beans mingled with the faint scent of pastries and old books that lined the walls. It was an atmosphere that usually invited calm conversations and quiet reflections. However, on this particular day, the calm was about to be shattered by a confrontation that would etch itself into the memory of everyone present. Billy, a man known for his unwavering loyalty and protective nature, was enjoying a brief respite from his busy life. He had just taken a seat at his favorite table, a spot where he often found solace after long hours at work. His eyes, though soft and kind when he smiled, carried a silent promise of defense toward those he cared about. At that very moment, as he sipped his coffee and lost himself in thought, a scene across the room caught his attention, one that he could not ignore. At a table near the window sat Adam and Chelsea, two figures whose presence together stirred a cascade of memories in Billy's mind. Adam, with his casual, almost indifferent demeanor, seemed at ease in Chelsea's company. His eyes, however, betrayed nothing of the depth of his intentions, and his posture was that of someone who had long mastered the art of concealment. Chelsea, on the other hand, wore her emotions on her sleeve. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, and there was an unmistakable heaviness about her, a mixture of hope, regret, and longing. Billy's heart pounded as he tried to comprehend the unfolding situation. His instincts screamed that something was amiss. With a mix of disbelief and mounting anger, he swiftly abandoned his seat and made his way towards the pair. Each step was fueled by a mix of protective loyalty and deep-seated resentment that had been building over time. Billy's thoughts raced back to the painful past. The series of betrayals, the careless disregard for feelings, and the broken promises. Even though Billy had moved on and was now living a content life with Sally, he still carried the scars of his past entanglements, scars that were too raw to ignore when old wounds reopened. "Adam, what are you doing here?" Billy demanded as he reached the table, his voice trembling with a mixture of anger and hurt. The cafe fell into a hushed silence as patrons turned their attention toward the unfolding drama. Chelsea's eyes widened, and she hesitated for a moment before confessing the truth. "Billy, Adam and I are trying to get back together," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. The confession was like gasoline thrown onto a smoldering fire. Billy's face darkened with rage, his eyes flashing with a determination that left no room for compromise. Despite his current happiness with Sally, a happiness built on trust, respect, and mutual care, Billy's protective instincts over Chelsea and Connor, who was like family to him, overcame all other considerations. In his mind, the past was not something that could simply be brushed aside. He recalled the time when Adam had shown a blatant disregard for the feelings of those around him. Adam, who had a reputation for discarding women like old, worn-out garments whenever his interest waned, had once inflicted deep emotional wounds on Chelsea. For Billy, who had always held women in the highest esteem, Adam's callousness was utterly unacceptable. Without warning, Billy lunged forward, seizing Adam by the neck. The sudden violence was jarring, a raw, unfiltered expression of pent-up anger. "Get out of our lives, Adam," he bellowed, his voice echoing off the walls of the cafe. "Leave Chelsea and Connor alone. Don't ever come near them again." The words spilled out with an intensity that spoke volumes of his internal torment. In that heated moment, the cafe transformed from a place of quiet refuge into an arena for an emotional showdown. Adam struggled under Billy's grip, his eyes wide with a mixture of shock and defiance. Yet, amid the chaos, he tried to assert his stance. "Billy, calm down. I'm not here to hurt anyone," he insisted, though his tone lacked the conviction that might have quelled the fury. Instead, the very act of speaking only fueled Billy's determination further. Chelsea's anguished cries cut through the clamor. "Please, stop. Don't fight," she pleaded, her voice choked with sobs. Her eyes darted between the two men, between the man who had once been a part of her life and the man who now embodied the protective force of her past. Tears streamed down her face as she reached out, trying in vain to pull the two adversaries apart. The pain in her eyes was unmistakable, a reflection of the internal battle waging within her heart. In that tumultuous moment, Billy's actions were not simply those of a jealous ex-lover, they were the manifestation of a deep-seated principle. He had always believed in cherishing and protecting the women in his life, never allowing anyone to treat them as disposable. For him, it wasn't merely about the present confrontation, it was about upholding a promise made to those who had trusted him with their hearts. Chelsea, with all her vulnerabilities, had once believed in the goodness of love and trust. Billy's fierce intervention was as much a defense of her as it was a stand against a man whose history was marred by callous disregard. Adam, even as he struggled under Billy's grip, made a fervent declaration that sought to salvage what little dignity he had left. "I swear, Chelsea, I will be faithful. I'll never abandon you or Connor again," he promised, his voice trembling as he spoke. It was a promise laced with desperation, a promise that seemed almost too good to be true given the painful past that both Chelsea and Billy knew all too well. His words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of broken promises and tarnished trust. The confrontation grew more intense as onlookers whispered among themselves. Some wondered if this was a mere misunderstanding, while others recalled the notorious history between these characters, a history filled with betrayal, heartbreak, and a recurring cycle of hope and disappointment. Billy's grip on Adam tightened, a physical manifestation of the emotional bond he felt toward those he cared for. Meanwhile, Chelsea's cries of despair seemed to pierce the hearts of everyone present, a stark reminder that love, in all its complexities, was not just a matter of promises made in moments of passion, but also of actions taken in moments of reckoning. In the minutes that followed, the cafe became a stage for raw emotions, a microcosm of the eternal struggle between redemption and regret. Billy's anger was not just a reaction to a momentary lapse, it was an outpouring of years of witnessing heartache and betrayal. His loyalty to Chelsea and Connor was unwavering, and every fiber of his being rebelled against the idea of letting someone as callous as Adam re-enter their lives. For Billy, it was not merely about a single confrontation, it was about protecting the sanctity of relationships that he believed were worth preserving at all costs. As the situation slowly began to de-escalate, with the intervention of other patrons and eventually the arrival of a calm, composed cafe manager, the intensity of the moment lingered like a heavy fog. The damage was done, and the wounds inflicted by old betrayals had been reopened. Chelsea, still trembling and tear-streaked, looked between Billy and Adam with a mix of sorrow and uncertainty. The promise Adam had made, though delivered in a moment of desperation, was now weighed against the vivid recollections of his past transgressions. For Billy, the fight was a necessary stand. A reaffirmation of his commitment to honor and protect the women he loved. His actions, though impulsive, were rooted in a deep-seated belief that love deserved to be treated with reverence and care. And as the echoes of the confrontation slowly faded into the background hum of the cafe, one thing remained clear: the scars of the past were not so easily forgotten, and the road to forgiveness, if it ever existed, would be paved with many more trials and tribulations. In that small cafe, amidst the lingering aroma of coffee and the soft murmur of distant conversations, a profound lesson was etched into the fabric of time, that love, once betrayed, leaves behind a trail of hurt that can only be mended with unwavering loyalty, honesty, and the courage to confront painful truths head-on. The day had begun like any other, but for Chelsea, Billy, and Adam it would forever be remembered as a turning point, a moment when the past collided with the present, forcing each of them to face the consequences of their choices and to decide whether redemption was within reach or if the wounds were too deep to heal. Thus, as the day wore on and the cafe slowly returned to its routine hum, the confrontation remained a poignant reminder of the complexities of human relationships, a testament to the fact that sometimes, love and loyalty demand sacrifices, and that the path to healing often begins with the courage to stand up against the shadows of the past. In the midst of the chaos that had unfolded in the quaint little cafe, the emotional intensity reached an entirely new level. Chelsea, sitting at the same table where the tension had peaked, felt her heart throb with a mix of gratitude and sorrow. Despite the tumultuous scene before her, she was deeply moved by Billy's fierce, albeit impulsive, act of protection, a gesture that had stirred long-hidden feelings and reminded her of the sincerity that once existed between them. Yet, even as tears welled in her eyes, Chelsea resolved to face her inner turmoil on her own terms. She silently made a choice. This was her battle to fight, not someone else's to wage. Chelsea's inner voice whispered that, despite the pain of the past, she still craved a life filled with peace, a life where love could blossom without the relentless interference of others. In her heart, she had come to believe that the love and desire radiating from Adam were genuine, that his promises were laced with a commitment she had longed to see. For Chelsea, Adam's presence, his earnest look and soft words of assurance, were enough to fill the void left by past disappointments. She yearned to sit beside him, to share the quiet moments that spoke louder than any explosive confrontation ever could. Chelsea longed for a future free of the shadows of former betrayals, a future where every moment was a testament to redemption and hope. But as the tension simmered, the fragile thread of calm was all too easily snapped. Billy, still seething with protective fury and unable to let go of his burning sense of loyalty, clashed head-on with Adam. What began as a fierce verbal confrontation quickly escalated into physical violence. In the narrow confines of the cafe, amid scattered chairs and overturned cups, fists flew in a whirlwind of anger and regret. Billy's every punch carried the weight of years of witnessing injustice, his determination fueled by a desire to shield those he cared for from a man whose history was marred by abandonment and heartache. Adam, equally enraged and cornered by the confrontation, fought back with a desperation that revealed the raw vulnerability beneath his rugged exterior. His strikes, although hasty and uncontrolled, were imbued with a promise that he would no longer be the callous man who had once cast aside the affections of those who loved him. The clash between Adam and Billy became the centerpiece of a dramatic scene, a raw display of pent-up emotions erupting in an environment that was usually a haven for gentle conversation. Around them, the cafe's patrons, who had initially been drawn into the unfolding drama, now sat frozen in shock and disbelief. The air, once filled with the comforting aroma of roasted coffee beans and the soft murmur of daily life, now reverberated with the sounds of fists colliding and harsh, ragged breathing. Chairs scraped against the floor, tables trembled, and a palpable sense of chaos spread through the room. Amid this violent melee, Chelsea's heart ached. She watched as the two men, the one who had promised to cherish her, and the one who had always vowed to protect her, clashed in a way that seemed to shatter the delicate balance of her world. For a fleeting moment, she wished she could intervene, to pull them both into a calm embrace and remind them of the beauty of peace. Yet, she also knew that this was not her fight. Determined to reclaim her inner strength, she sat silently, letting her tears fall as an expression of both sorrow and resolve. Just when it seemed that the intensity of the brawl might spiral into irreversible ruin, the entrance of a familiar figure brought everything to an abrupt halt. Connor, the young soul who had long adored both Adam and Billy in his own innocent way, stepped through the doorway. His eyes, wide with terror and disbelief, took in the scene, the two men he had come to see as protectors, mentors, and even role models, locked in a violent struggle that threatened to tear apart the fragile bonds of family and loyalty. "Stop!" Connor's voice rang out, sharp and piercing, slicing through the clamor like a knife through tension. His cry was not just a word, it was a desperate plea born from the depths of a child's heart, imploring his beloved figures to remember the values they once upheld. In that instant, as if by magic, time seemed to slow down. The fists paused mid-air, the furious energy frozen as every heart in the cafe collectively turned its gaze toward the little boy. For a suspended moment, the world seemed to stand still. Connor's wide, innocent eyes, filled with both fear and unwavering hope, silently communicated a powerful message to the warring men. It was a reminder that behind every act of anger and every burst of passion, there lay lives that were deeply intertwined, a family of souls that had once believed in the possibility of redemption, love, and forgiveness. The echoes of his cry reverberated through the cafe, casting a spell of calm over the chaotic scene. Chelsea's eyes shimmered with unshed tears as she observed the sudden shift. The realization struck her deeply. The path to healing was not paved with violence or bitter confrontation, but with understanding, empathy, and a willingness to confront one's inner demons. She felt a profound connection to both Billy and Adam in that silent, charged moment, a connection that transcended anger, betrayal, and pain. It was the universal language of love, a language that spoke of second chances and the hope of a future unburdened by the scars of the past. Slowly, as if emerging from a shared reverie, the tension began to ebb away. Billy's grip on Adam's collar loosened, and the two men, still flushed with the adrenaline of the fight, looked into each other's eyes with a mixture of regret and reluctant understanding. The raw emotions that had fueled their violence began to give way to a sober recognition of the consequences of their actions. Adam's face, once hardened by defiance, now bore the marks of introspection. He realized that his promise to be a better man, to remain faithful and to stand by Chelsea and Connor, would remain hollow if his actions continued to inflict pain and discord. In the midst of the unfolding aftermath, Chelsea took a deep breath. With quiet determination, she rose from her seat, stepping forward to face the two men whose lives had become so inextricably intertwined with hers. "I understand what you're trying to do," she said softly, her voice steady despite the lingering tremors of emotion. "But this isn't the way to resolve our past or build a future. I need to stand here, beside Adam, in peace, if that's what I choose." Her words were not a command, but a heartfelt appeal, a call for calm and reflection, not only for the sake of her own heart but for the sake of the future that they all might share. As the intensity of the conflict faded into a heavy silence, the little boy's outburst continued to resonate in the hearts of everyone present. Connor's innocent intervention had acted as a catalyst, a moment of clarity that reminded them all of the preciousness of love and the value of understanding. In that fragile interlude, the three individuals, each battered by the storm of their own making, found a common ground in the shared desire for a better, more compassionate way forward. The café, once the stage for a violent showdown, gradually returned to its usual ambience. The tables were righted, and the once scattered chairs were gathered and set back in place. Yet, the impact of the events would linger long after the day's light had faded, serving as a poignant reminder that even in the darkest of moments, the light of love and hope could still be kindled. Chelsea's quiet resolve, combined with the somber introspection of Adam and Billy, sowed the seeds for a future where conflicts would be met not with violence, but with dialogue and understanding. In that singular day at the small café, the echoes of a child's cry and the silent tears of a woman who desired peace intertwined to create a moment of profound transformation. It was a testament to the fact that while the past may cast long shadows, the courage to embrace forgiveness and the determination to seek a better tomorrow can guide even the most fractured of hearts toward healing. And as the gentle hum of the café resumed, there remained a lingering hope, a hope that, in time, love would conquer the remnants of anger, and every heart, no matter how wounded, could find solace in the promise of a new beginning.